Well, you say it's basic, but golf, from my perspective, is the most difficult sport than any other sport I've ever played.
Your distance to the pin on your approach shot.
Yeah.
Whether you come from a bunker, the fairway, or the rough, your distance to the pin will determine your probability of making the putt. On average, over 12 years, PGA Tour averages were like within 3 feet, 99% probability of make. Over 12 years of stats. 4 feet, 87% probability of make.
Wow.
If you go down to 8 feet, it's like 48% probability of make. Then you are worse off than flipping a coin. So basically, if you're outside of 8 feet, you literally are playing against the house.
Yeah.
There's no way. You can maybe score on a good day. Everything falls. But guess what? With large data sets, that's not going to happen. You're going to lose everything. It's like somebody that won the jackpot and believes that keeping on gambling, they will keep on winning.
Hello guys, I'm Schalk Brits, ex-Springbok rugby player. I've changed the rugby pitch now to the fairways. Guys, I'm at Paul Valley and it is in the Western Cape in South Africa, and it's an unbelievable golf course. As you can see, the mountains is beautiful, and I'm very fortunate to have Henri Johnson with me today. Henri, when I first started getting passionate about golf and trying to get down to scratch, I struggled with data, I struggled with understanding my swing, and eventually I started looking at FlightScope monitors to help me with my golf. And I got to this amazing company called FlightScope. And when I started Googling it, it said the entrepreneur, the scientist, the innovator is Henri Johnson. And he's all the way from beautiful Stellenbosch. Tell me, Henri, how did this start? Because it came from missiles, I heard.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, let's start at the beginning. Stellenbosch is where I ended up, but
Yeah.
I actually grew up in a very small town called Warrenton. In fact, between Warrenton and Young Kempdorp, nobody knows where it is, doesn't matter. I had very few resources. We were like 200 kids in the total school, high and low. So every day before and after sports, athletics and rugby, you had to do everything there. I went to the library, local library, and I was always very curious. I studied every single physics, mathematics, electronics book that I could lay my hands on, because I was just curious. I had a total hunger. My mother always said, "My kid, your eyes are bigger than your stomach," and that hasn't changed, by the way. But anyway, so I learned a lot while I was at school. I built my first radio transmitter when I was in grade 6, standard 4 those days. And then I landed up in Stellenbosch, studied electronic engineering, and I stayed there for most of my life. So that's how I landed up there. And you said missiles. No, we didn't measure missiles. We actually measured projectiles fired from big guns, like the 155 millimeter G5, G6 guns from South Africa when they were developed. They could shoot 42 kilometers, and we had to measure those projectiles fired from the gun accurately. And the systems had to be qualified to within 0.01% of accuracy.
So that's a very, very small margin,
number.
right?
So we learned how to do that. But my first introduction to radar was actually at the Institute of Maritime Technology, where we were just a bunch of scientists, engineers, and we worked on taking an old naval radar and converting that into a radar that could measure the deployment of chaff when you want to have a confusing situation for radars that's detecting you. An airplane would throw out chaff, which is small aluminium flakes and so on. And we had to measure the deployment of that in 3D. I was fortunate enough to work under an engineer that was my senior, Jaapie van Zyl, Jacob van Zyl they called him. He finally ended up to be the director of outer space missions at NASA.
Yeah.
And he passed away unfortunately during COVID. Fantastic guy, very intelligent. And my first exposure to radar was there. And I was working mostly on sonar related projects. And then I broke away, wanted to do my own thing, and I got an opportunity to build the first muzzle velocity radar in South Africa that was, portable and it could do the job. So that's how it started.
Okay, so bring it back to sport. What's the love for sport and actually measuring? Because it's not, people think FlightScope is just in golf, but it's not. But it's a projectile is a lot of sports, right?
Yeah, anything that moves really. So we were stuck during the 90s because of sanctions against South Africa in the military especially, so we couldn't export at all. So we were limited to this industry, and then funding was cut to Arms Corps and so on. Basically we were left hanging, and I knew we had to do something else. And I was fortunate enough to get a call from, and you might know him very well, another rugby player, and I'll mention his name now. But anyway, it was an interesting situation, and they wanted to do cricket bowling speed. And he said, can you do a cricket system that's automated and that can actually measure cricket bowling speed accurately? And I said, sure, I can. 3 months later, it was at Newlands for an international match on TV, and the sponsor was Gillette Speed Stick, the underarm. Yeah. And so everybody referred to this new technology as Speed Stick. It was kind of a duality. And in event, they really helped me a lot. It was Mega Pro Marketing, introduced me to their counterparts in England. We did the same thing there. Then we went to Australia, did the same thing there. And then the one thing led to the next. And the reason why we even got into sport was just a phone call. Yeah. At some point we said, okay, what's next? And then I had a call from somebody in England, and he said they are doing tennis tournaments, and can we measure serve speed? And I said, yeah, surely we can. Why would we? Because serve speed is all over the place. And I said, yeah, true, but it's not accurate. And I said, now you have my attention. And that's the point. It's not accurate. And the reason is they use typically Doppler radar, which is you have to be either directly towards or directly away from it in order to get an accurate measurement. If you have any angle, then you just get a component of the speed. Yeah. Okay, so speed basically distance over time, and the distance gets relative if you don't come in a straight line towards the Doppler radar. Yeah. We fix that by putting angular measurements in 3D, in other words, so that you have angles and speed, and then you have velocity in the direction of movement. So that was not difficult. And then there was not a lot of business in that space, unfortunately, but we finally bought that tennis company and we grew it. And we sold it off to IMG Arena in 2022. But I said, well, what's the next thing? Maybe golf, and I didn't play golf. I always thought it was for old people, and now I am there. So that's why I'm also playing. I spoke to my architect. I knew he played golf, Fred de Kock. And he said, he knows somebody that actually is a good friend with Ernie Els, and he'll get me into golf. So introduced me to Gavin McCann. He was a buddy of Ernie Els, and so they started connecting me up, and Ernie Els' brother, Dirk Els, started hitting balls for us. Yeah. He's even taller than Ernie, and I remember him carrying about 320 meters up in Gauteng. Anyway, and then we started measuring golf balls, but using our military technology at first. And I said to the guys, so what do you guys want to see? And they said, maybe the ball speed, club speed. They know about club speed, but maybe ball speed will be nice. And I said, anything else? They said, let's do that. And we did that. And then finally it became boring, like ball speed and club speed. Maybe we should have something else. How far does it carry? Yeah, that'll be interesting, So we started doing that. And that was a little bit more challenging to measure the ball until it lands. But we finally got there. And we regularly went to Ernie Els' Invitational with all the rugby players and cricket players and everybody there. And I met a lot of those guys on the tee, and they were always asking, "What is this?" And we told them, and it was interesting, but there was no commercial thing at the time. And then we started going to the PGA show in 2004 in Orlando, and that's where we started getting into the teaching and fitting market. And so that's how we came into golf.
So Henry, from my perspective as an amateur golfer, it was very expensive to actually get data, because golf is data led, right? You've got a feeling, but does the feeling is the same as the data? So in the past, it was too expensive to go buy these very expensive monitors. The market has changed, technology has changed. Now tell me, within your product range, how has things changed from where you started and where we are now?
That's a good question. So we have top of the line equipment, as you know, like our X3C, and it can do literally everything and more than anybody needs. And then we have other products that are more affordable, but that can really do a lot.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing here is, what you're actually asking is, what do you need?
Yeah.
Now, that's not only a practical question, but it's also a philosophical question, because I'll start with this one first. Men in particular don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. And so on. And they buy what they think would actually elevate their image and all kinds of stuff. So those are the emotional things which I'm not into at all. I understand a little bit of it, but what I'm into is data.
Yeah.
Accurate data, that if you use it correctly, in any way, it can make a difference if you're prepared to put in the work. So let's rephrase your question.
Okay, let's rephrase it. What data should I look at? Let's start.
Okay.
I want to get down to scratch. I
Yes.
used it. I used my FlightScope, but there is some things maybe for my brain becomes very complex.
Yes.
Dumb it down for me as a
Okay.
golfer, not a pro golfer, but an amateur that wants to maximize
Yes.
my capability.
So the first assumption must be that you don't expect to watch a YouTube video and become better by walking out of the door and going and playing golf.
Yeah.
That's not going to help. It helps you if you take that information and you actually go to work, like you know in your sport as well, you know, where you come from. You have to put in the time. Knowledge is important, but putting in the time where you actually build a rhythm, the experience, that's where things happen. Now, what I would say, any golfer, any amateur golfer at least, professionals have this already, I would start by using one of these alignment sticks,
Yeah.
okay, which is kind of whippy. And then in our app, there's a swing training module, which can measure that stick, by the way. It
Yeah.
will measure the speed at which, the maximum speed at where. So what I would do is use the speed training with a alignment stick first. Because maybe not every, but most amateur golfers have a problem. They don't know how to crack the whip.
Yeah.
So this is a technique that needs to be mastered to the best of your ability first. I would do that first, because if you don't understand how to crack that whip there,
Generate speed, right?
then you are lost, because what most amateurs will do, they will start by doing that.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Is
Then
that
it's
the
gone.
over the top move?
Yes,
that
because
people talk
as
about?
soon as you turn your upper body, then it's going to go, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're losing your ability, and you can't, if you turn like that, there's no speed, okay?
Yeah.
So you need to actually create something there, and that's a whip action. Very difficult to explain, and I mean, that's why we have so many golf teachers. They're trying to communicate that in various ways. The second thing, what I would do if I were in your position or anybody else, I would focus on the ball direction first. Because if you can control the club face where it's pointing to at contact dominates where the ball's going to start. Just your starting position. Forget about the shape for the moment. That's next level.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would concentrate on the ball direction and really try to get a understanding of how how I can manipulate the direction by changing the club face at impact. Once you have a feeling, because it's all about feeling. If I stand here and you need to throw a ball at me,
Yeah.
instinctively you know how much to give it.
Yeah.
And the palm of your hand is not going to face there, hopefully.
Yeah.
Although you didn't pass the ball in rugby, you just ran.
Yeah.
But you'll pass it like that. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at very good players like Tiger Woods, they will tell you that the palm of the left hand, they manipulate the face for various shots. They have a feeling to do it, and they do it very well. Naturally, they don't even have to think. So developing the skill to crack the whip, and developing a skill and a feeling of controlling the face at impact, I would say are the two fundamentals in my mind as a scientist and an engineer that will set you up. If you're prepared to put in the work, the rest can be built on top of that, and you will converge to success and outcome much, much quicker than trying to interpret spin and all kinds of other things. Angle of attack, those are refinements and interesting.
Yeah.
But the basics are actually very basic.
Well, you say it's basic, but golf, from my perspective, is the most difficult sport than any other sport I've ever played. Getting back to the units, you've brought out a new product called the Gen 2, Mevo Gen 2.
Yes.
Well, how does that differ from the Plus?
Okay, I think that first and foremost, it's extremely affordable.
Yeah.
Compared to any other thing, launch monitor that we've made before.
Yeah.
Except the Mevo 1, which was a tiny one,
Yeah.
which we discontinued. The Mevo Gen 2 gives you more than you need in any event in terms of improving your golf.
Yeah.
It's small, you can put it in your golf bag, and we're gonna, test one just now. It is an amazing piece of technology. It's very accurate, and we say it can last up to 6 hours. It goes more. I've used mine for 9 hours on the battery. Now, not that I continually hit balls for 9 hours, but cumulatively. So you don't have to recharge it all the time. So it's very convenient, it's extremely accurate, and it's got more parameters than most golfers can consume in any event.
Yeah.
Because as you know, in golf, you can't really think of too many things at the same time. It doesn't work out so well.
Yeah.
When you're training or using the data, you also need to limit your focus onto very specifics that you're working on. There's more than enough within the Mevo Gen 2. And compared to the Mevo Plus, it is more accurate.
Yeah.
Because things change. Every year, technology changes, and we are always trying to improve the existing technology, and this is no exception.
Okay, so what is interesting for me is why FlightScope? Why not? Firstly, you've made it cheaper, right? At unbelievable data you get. Why FlightScope and not some other competing brand?
All right, so we've been around the longest in this industry. We started, and we are still measuring projectiles fired from guns for 40 countries over the world.
Yeah.
So we know how to make things accurate, and this is what we do. So we pay attention to the detail, but it's not only the product that you buy and what you see on paper in terms of accuracy. What really matters is also your cost of ownership, because we don't charge you, we don't fine you because you own the product and you need to get a software update. You have to pay a terrible subscription every year and so on. Other people always try to get you, after you've done the purchase. We don't do that. We always want to make it affordable and also reachable for the consumer. So I would say then our support worldwide, in my mind, I think it's amazing. We are working with humans, so things can go wrong, but I keep a very close eye on user experience. And of course, you won't satisfy everyone, but we try to satisfy most.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing a very good job at that. That's what our clients say, and I believe that. And we try to be really personable. We try to answer the phone We don't want just to hand you over to a robot. We want to engage with people. And I know you're a people's person,
Yeah.
you understand that. So I believe that as well. People need people. And that's what we are investing in all the time.
That's amazing, Henri, to hear that the founder and the scientist is still so involved, not just in the product development side, but you mentioned technology, right? And we used AI, well, the buzzword AI. But it feels like everything is moving into ecosystem, and it feels FlightScope is moving that way as well. Tell us more about the rangefinder and the units and how you're going to incorporate AI and tech and staying ahead of the curve, Henri, because it's complex, right? And everyone is using it. So can you enlighten me then?
Yes.
What I can look forward to rather.
All right, so, and you've played with me when we've used the rangefinder. Yeah. And so the i4 rangefinder in itself is amazing because of the following. In the FlightScope app, as you know, you can put in your data, various means. You can use the AI in there, just put in like a 7-iron distance at your home course, and it will fill in your entire bag. Yeah. With all the launch conditions that are super accurate. And even I tested this with various pros like Retief Goos, and he was blown away. He actually called some other players from the European tour to come and have a look. He couldn't believe that by filling in one club at his home course, the rest were spot on. Now that's just a feature. What does it mean? It means that if you go out to play with the i4 rangefinder at any place, it's connected to the app, that's important, on your phone. We will pull the general weather conditions, and if you shoot the flag and you get a certain distance, it's going to give you the direct distance to the flag, and it's going to give you your effective distance for you based on your club data at your home course and what you should do today, because it takes into account what we call, and this is a little bit technical, but just take it, air density and kinematic viscosity.
Yeah.
For the environment now. And that will determine how the ball flies. So if you have a very high ball speed, loads of spin and a certain launch angle, the ball will fly differently compared to somebody that's got a low ball speed and maybe a lower spin and so on. Okay, so you get the idea.
So is that the algorithm built behind?
It does it within milliseconds. So, and then it basically gives you a bonus. It's going to recommend a club for you for now. Now, that is when there's no wind. But if you want to, you just push on the button and then it shows you like a wind rose with arrows, and you can select, okay, like this, the wind is now into our face, or maybe, and then you just, put it there, and it's going to take the average wind for now from the weather station locally, and it's going to give you an idea. Now, here you must be careful. Wind is the most dangerous element to try and utilize because it varies. It varies because of trees and hills and even, stuff we don't know. So wind is very, very extreme in its ability to change your ball flight. But it gives you a very good idea. And for me, I don't want to play without it, because I play and I shoot the flag and I get a very good idea of what I should be hitting. And I always feel confident that I get the best club recommendation and I don't have to second guess, especially in my backswing, because that's when bad things happen. You think I have to give it just a little bit more, and then you mess up the shot or whatever. So typical human condition. So the i4 rangefinder does a lot of heavy lifting for you for every shot, and it doesn't matter what your handicap is, it's going to help you.
So what you're actually saying to me is I can't have any excuses anymore when I start playing with the i4 rangefinder, right?
It's going to be your best caddy, because that is you. It's basically what you do with your clubs. And on average, because if you have to look at not only one game that you played a 48 in the first 9, isn't that what you told me?
Yeah.
It's basically over a long time, on averages, you're going to score, your score will improve. And I think this is something that you can test. If you play without the i4 rangefinder or you use it, on average you will score better, because you have confidence, and confidence breeds confidence, no question.
It's quite fundamental having the right data. But now you're incorporating actually practice, understanding the data, and what I have to do to become a better player quicker. So the reality is most golfers, and I'll take it myself, when I didn't have my FlightScope, I would hit balls for ages. Now you're shrinking the time of being more precise, understanding what I'm doing as a golfer, and now the next step is by helping me while I'm training to say what should I focus on. Would it ever move to the course itself? So
Yes.
you've got the eye, the rangefinder that is a cat in my pocket. Secondly, you go from, okay, fine, I'll link the data that I practice onto the golf course, and where I can strategically or just from a strategy perspective get better as a player, or course management? Is it a bit of both?
I think not only a bit of both for sure, but again, it depends on your appetite to get feedback in a particular scenario. So for instance, if you are playing golf, most likely you don't want interference in swing thoughts that can take you off track. Most people are like that, I guess, hopefully. But if you're just in a practice round and you want to get data, we are going to come up with some interesting embodiments in this year that, for the connoisseur, will make even that experience fantastic. There is always the danger of information overload, and that's why we want to distill it down to simplicity and structure by using intelligence. And I just don't want to say the word AI. AI is a tool that we use in order to provide access to intelligence, and in order for the intelligence to be superior to everybody else, the data has to be accurate.
Yeah.
And that's we've covered that base.
Yeah.
So I honestly believe that the next evolution in golf for amateurs would be actionable statistics and direction through intelligence by having access to fantastic, accurate data and a clear picture that you can, and a routine that you can follow, and you will get success quicker and better if you put in the work.
Henry, thank you. It is absolutely wonderful spending time with you and picking your brain. It is, not only are you an amazing human being, but the way you see and move forward of looking after the normal golfer, me. It's I just want to get better, and the one thing is a foundation of, firstly, data. Second, a foundation of looking after your consumer, not trying to pull as much money out of him, but making sure that he understands he gets a great product for the price, and you're not rinsing him every year.
Yeah.
And then where you want to go for the amateur golfer and the professional golfer to become the best version of golfer he can possibly be. And thank you for your time. It's
absolutely. And I would just want to end off by saying that there's one thing that I would say most amateur men golfers especially don't understand, or at least if they know the facts, they don't pay attention enough. And this is there's one statistic in your game that will determine your probability of a score, which
now
is
you've got me.
your distance to the pin on your approach shot.
Yeah.
Whether you come from a bunker, the fairway, or the rough, your distance to the pin will determine your probability of making the putt.
Yeah.
On average, over 12 years, PGA Tour averages were like within 3 feet, 99% probability of make. Over 12 years of stats. 4 feet, 87% probability of make.
Wow.
If you go down to 8 feet, it's like 48% probability of make. Then you are worse off than flipping a coin. So basically, if you're outside of 8 feet, you literally are playing against the house.
Yeah.
There's no way. You can maybe score on a good day. Everything falls. But guess what? With large data sets, that's not going to happen. You're going to lose everything. It's like somebody that won the jackpot and believes that keeping on gambling, they will keep on winning. That's the worst decision of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to lose everything. So if you keep on being outside of 8 feet on an approach shot, you will be losing over time. Okay. So here's the thing. Your objective should be to be within at least where you can have a reasonable chance of making the putt. It sounds so simple, but in order to do that means there's a chain reaction, and that's where Dr. Mark Brody wrote his book, Every Shot Counts. And the whole thing about, if you mess up one shot, and I know this very well, you put the tee shot out of bounds, you're not in good shape. That's there are consequences on the scorecard, okay? And then normally, depending on how good your emotional control is and self-discipline, it's also going to influence the next shot, because you want to now really monster it or whatever. So I think that's the one piece that I think that is totally underestimated, is proximity to the pin. And we're going to put a lot of focus on providing a fun way for people to improve that, because I know men just want to hit the ball, that driver, man. They just want to bomb that driver.
Yeah.
And statistically, in the chain of events leading up to your score, that's an important event, but it's more important if you mess it up. So you need to look at the probability. What's my probability if you can hit how far do you hit your driver?
Oh, 264
carry.
Yeah, on meters, yeah.
Meters?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 300 yards.
Yeah.
I know, I've played with you. But if you miss, it's not small trouble. It's big trouble.
It is.
Because
especially left.
The tolerances are very, very small. So here's the thing. Going further on a drive is most likely not statistically good advice. That's why most tour players don't hit flat out, even though they can.
Yeah.
When I met Bryson DeChambeau in 2016 at Chambers Bay, he was swinging his driver at 108 miles per hour, same as mine.
Yeah.
Anyway, but then he started on the range, he started pounding them at 129, 130 miles per hour. And I said, whoa, you don't have to do that. And he said, he said, don't worry about it. He does it all the time. But he played at 108 miles per hour club head speed. That's just after he won the US Amateur. And he played the US Open. And of course, during COVID, he started bombing the ball, and he can hit it far. And all of them can hit it far. But that's not the point. Your risk goes up, and your odds change.
Yeah.
And you must, as a golfer, you must always think about odds. So am I going to have the odds for me or against me?
Okay.
And this is the principle that most men golfers ignore, because they just want to bomb the driver.
Yeah, the fun part, right? But sorry, I did say almost goodbye and thank you, but the reality is, how do I know, going onto a golf course, before I play, what strategy then I have to take to give me the optimal solution to get to the best score? Every day is different, but to give me the best probability of getting to the score I want. How do I do that?
All right, so the good news is we're going to give you a tool during the course of the year that from your smart gapping, we will be able to give you a plan for the golf course that you select.
That is unbelievable.
And so that will
I can't wait.
improve your odds.